transition to us two on screen, and there we go. We're good to go. All right, my friend. So tonight we are covering Free the Darkness by Kel Kade, the first book in the Dark King's Tidings storyline of, however you want to put it, novelization, actual breakdown, whatever.
How many books are there?
I think there's like 7 or 8.
5?
Let me get the.
Oh dang! I thought there was only 5. I'll look that up while you're giving your little monologue here.
Oh no, it's fine. I can look it up real quick while we cover this. It's good for us to talk about the book and how it actually
Seeing 7
is perceived. It might be 7.
Or no, 7's coming out this year. Okay.
Yeah. She's still writing it at least. So we're gonna get like 8 or 9 books out of this series, which I love personally. I love when authors do the long draw on books. It makes us as readers actually stay invested throughout a long period of time, even if there are breaks in the story. For example, I still listen to Dungeon Lord by Hugo Huesca. It's one of my favorite books of all time, and the way even though he took a break for like 4 or 5 years, he came back to it, came right back into it, invested into it, and loved how he was writing his story. I absolutely love it. Anyway, we're getting into the Free the Darkness by Kel Kade. It's one of my favorite authors. I've had the pleasure of actually meeting her in person at PopCon out here in Denver a couple years ago. Now, tonight we're going to do something different in the way we're going to break down Rezkin, the main character, as a character himself. I'm going to do it in my own way. If Hanslow wants to do it, he can do it also in his own way. But I prepared this as a little spur-of-the-moment change for how we normally do the podcast. So, Rezkin, the Raven, truly is one terrifying being. He lives by a code and wishes to truly make the world around him better, even if he goes about it in a hidden way. And how I break that down is even if he doesn't understand it, the way he was trained is to make the world a better place. It's not just him wanting it and him actually trying to do it. It's more of that's how he was trained, and he's reacting to his training most of the time. So when we first learn of Rezkin, he isn't a threat to anyone. He's just a babe being carried to a fort. He was taken to a fortress to learn the ways of the most lethal things known to man. We're talking poisons, blades, crossbows, bows, everything known to man that you've learned. He learned it, and he understood how to do it to a degree that is beyond your normal human being. He was raised to be a king's personal assassin. Throughout his training at the fortress, Rezkin learned of his skills, both by learning them from the actual masters of each skill and his own understanding of how to interpret the skill. He learned to not only take a life, but to protect others when he needs to. While learning and evading death under the tutelage of what are called strikers, elite warriors who mastered at least one form of combat, Rezkin became proficient with multiple forms of weapons and combat movements. He mastered all of these skills at least 4 years earlier than expected by his masters, and was forced to face them down in a massive brawl. Now, this isn't one where we're talking like 1 or 2 or maybe even 4 at a time. It's every single master fighting him down in the fortress at once. During this brawl, he witnessed both of his headmasters fight each other to the brutal death, each of them inflicting grievous wounds on the other, one of them perishing before Rezkin actually finished off the other strikers. While he was doing this, he learned many sets of rules, many sets of combat styles, many sets of actual skills to apply to real life, whether it was mercantile, poison crafting, actual medicine, or banking skills even. He learned those as well. He learned it all in such a fast time that his masters were even kind of baffled at how fast he learned these things. Now, during that brawl where all of the strikers perished and his masters perished, Rezkin got to talk to one of his masters before they actually passed on from this world. And one of them told him about the final 2 rules that he needed to live by. Yep, 1 and 2. So rule 2 being that you kill with conscience is what his master said. His master meant to say kill without conscience, so that he could actually kill and disassociate himself from the actual kill that he was performing. Now, the other rule that his master said is rule 1 is supposed to be protect and honor your king. And his master, in his delirium of blood loss and getting ready to pass on, accidentally said protect and honor your friends, because that was what he was seeing at the time when he was passing on. Now, that actually impacts Rezkin in a massive way compared to what we would normally get from the original set of the rules, in the way of Rezkin doesn't know what friends are. He's never had a actual friend, and that he truly doesn't understand what friends are supposed to be to him as a person. And in that way of him interpreting the rules, we understand that he truly doesn't grasp what they mean in the way of protecting and honoring your friends, other than actually protecting and then actually honoring your friends. With the slaughter of the mentors, and the only people that Rezkin knew, or that knew who Rezkin was taught only Rezkin was taught only to really risk himself in situations where it was meant for him, quote unquote, meant for him to be that way. It wasn't meant for him to truly risk himself to protect his friends and allies. It was more meant for him to protect his king and to risk his life protecting his king, rather than the way that he is interpreting it in the story that we get. With that whole thing happening, only one striker fled from the actual fort, and he took a boat. Rezkin later learned, and he went down the river, losing his trail entirely, and Rezkin sets out to hunt him down in a way. He doesn't necessarily want to kill him in the way that he was trained. He more wants to understand what's happening and why everything happened at the fort in the way that it did. Throughout this journey of him trying to find Striker Farson is his name, he lands at the village of, let me get the name of it real quick. The village.
What is his first one?
Of Perdoni, Perdony. When he actually arrives in Perdoni, he is baffled by the small men and women running around, and how they are not actually being trained, or that the fact that them being in this way of running around and being a frolic of human beings, that they are easier to train. Not interpreting the fact,
soccer.
Yeah, not interpreting the fact they're actually just playing with a ball and they're running around
Right.
and enjoying life as it is. We see that how he sees the world from this interaction of, he sees all small men and women needing to be trained, needing to be interacted with, needing to actually learn the skills that he learned in his own time at the fort with the masters and the strikers. Through this, we get to see his little bits of kindness in the way of, he doesn't want any of the small men and women, children, quote unquote, the actual children, the small men and women, by quote unquote there. He doesn't want any of them being hurt by his battle charger. And if those who don't know, a battle charger is a horse actually trained for war, one who is meant to react in violence towards people coming near it. So it's meant to actually be in a war zone. He kind of guides his war charger away from the children in learning that later on we learn the name of the horse being Pride. That Pride kind of doesn't like small humans. He's kind of aggressive towards them. Not in the way of like actually hostile, but if they come near him, he's going to attack them. with him traveling and learning this about his own horse and adapting how he reacts in situations towards how he deals with the horse, he goes to the next town, which I cannot remember the name of off the top of my head.
Which one? What are you looking for?
The first actual city he arrives in. I can't remember. Like, I have all the information about, like, the Diamond Claws and the...
Right, they're going to Justine, right?
Justine. That's the main city they're eventually heading to that they arrive in. Correct. You are right, my friend. So with them arriving in Justine, Rezkin heading to a tavern to, put his horse in the stables for the night, actually set him up so that the stable boy doesn't have to deal with a war charger if he doesn't know how to deal with it, and trying to find a room and just rest for the night. And when he's sitting at a table, this young woman named Frisha approaches him and starts speaking to him and just basically exuding kindness and trying to disarm him in the way that he appears, where Rezkin truly does appear dangerous in the way that he carries a multitude of weapons on his actual person, and in his pack he carries like his bow and his crossbow and his quivers and things like that. While we see
I forgot why she approached him.
She approached him because of the fact that he looked dangerous. She was drawn to the appeal of him being a dangerous man who looks like he's been in combat. Even though she didn't realize it, that's what Frisha was attracted to. We learn that later on in the story.
Right. Okay.
But with Rezkin not truly understanding what friends are and that he needs to protect them, honoring them in the way that his master told him to, he truly is baffled when Frisha tells him that she is his friend, and he is like, she must know that she's my friend. There must be some kind of teller to other people that they are my friends. They will know who they are, and they will let me know who they are. Kind of deal. Instead of truly understanding that friends are what you make of them. They're what you, the person, make of the people around you and how you feel about them and all of that. Through this, we get to learn that Frisha is traveling to the same city that Rezkin is. I can't remember the other name. Kaibane, yes. Kaibane. That's right. So with us sitting down at the table with Rezkin and Frisha and them talking, and Frisha saying that she's heading to Kaibane with her friend Tam, who's been with her from when she was a child, basically. They've been best friends ever since they were kids. Rezkin truly shows his kind of innate compassion, we should say, that's born to him in the way of he offers Frisha his hand in helping them to Justine or Kaibane, and trying to get there unharmed in the way of he thinks that she and Tam are his friends. And then when Tam actually shows up, we get an interaction between him and Rezkin where Tam is inserting himself between Rezkin and Frisha and trying to protect her because that's who truly is his friend from childhood. And that's his actual goal, is to make sure that Frisha doesn't come into contact with shady or innately promiscuous men. Tam is reluctant at first towards Rezkin due to his obligation to Frisha, but eventually does warm up to him and adores the sort of anti-hero aspect that Rezkin kind of imbibes through his time in Justine. And what I mean by the Rezkin, or the anti-hero side that Rezkin portrays, is the way that he's dangerous, but not outwardly hostile towards people. But if you do actually cross him, he will kill you instantly. No hesitation.
Tam initially thought that he wasn't even capable of fighting, that he was actually just this really gentlemanly figure that had a code of honor of sorts, but didn't have any actual... He didn't know that he would be able to protect them.
Exactly.
Initially.
Exactly. That's how Tam perceived him, as somewhat of a non-threat. And then as soon as Rezkin shifts his attitude in the tavern, Tam does perceive him as a threat. And that's what I like about this story, is we get that dichotomy between Reskin's outwardly non-hostile side towards his "I'm gonna kill you without hesitating" side. I love that dichotomy between the character.
One of the funny parts of that first interaction is when they stayed in the same room, and he's like checking for traps, telling him how to bar the door, trapping the door, and Tam's just like, what are you doing all that for? Do you really think people are going to just try and attack us? And he's like, hey man, you never know.
Well, he responds of, that's how people trained me. They came in the night and they attacked me and they try to kill me. You know, like that's how he reacts to the situation.
This is how I've lived. Yes,
yeah, exactly. And so, utilizing his skills in barring the door and all of that, he kind of shows Tam that other side of him. Even if Tam doesn't truly understand it, Tam gets to see the man behind the mask, so to say, for Reskin. In the way of that he's a cautious human who truly understands the world around him. He honestly gets that people are out to get him, even if he doesn't understand who is out to get him at the time. And with him beginning all this training and all this information from the strikers at the fort, he comes to this city and comes to the realization the first night that he has no information on the world around him anymore. So, with that information, Reskin takes to, let's just say, beheading the local Thieves Guild in a way that makes it so that he can take over it very quickly. And he takes over the local Thieves Guild in Justine and makes sure that they are no longer targeting the very baseline peasants. He's mainly making them go after high-value targets, the nobles or the rich folk.
Diamond Claw. The Diamond Claw?
Well, the Diamond Claw is another Thieves Guild, and he doesn't necessarily make them go after the Diamond Claws, as he himself goes to the Diamond Claws and takes it over as well in this whole takeover of the criminal underworld.
That was their name. That was the first Thieves Guild, right? Was the Diamond Claws though?
I think so. Yeah. I think the Diamond Claws is the first guild, and then
the other ones. There was like several.
I keep forgetting the second one. The one that he goes to right after the Diamond Claws.
The Nightblades?
I think so. Let me double check on
Serpent Guild?
I think it's the Serpent Guild. I could be wrong in saying that it's the Serpent Guild. Let me double check.
Razor's Edge.
Yes, Serpent Guild. It is actually the Serpent Guild. So, with him going to the Serpent Guild after taking over the Diamond Claws, he goes in and really appeals to the second in command and being like, I don't want to harm you. I just want to quietly take this over and try to use you all in a certain way. He goes in and, of course, has a confrontation with the headmaster of the Serpent Guild and quietly takes him out pretty effectively in front of all of his men. The reason why this particular master was actually in power in the Serpent Guild is because the local marquis had a incident happen with another noble family, and the local master of the Serpent Guild had blackmail on him and actually had the location of the grave of the poor woman who was involved, and he buried a knife, the specific knife that was used to end her life, with her corpse, and that specific knife has the Marquis's family emblem on it. So that is why the local Serpent Guild has the leader that it does, and that the local actual members of the Serpent Guild don't want to be in the Serpent Guild anymore with this leader under them, is because he kind of just waltzed in and took it without any confrontation from the other members or any of the other members who truly were upper in the echelon. And with this, a lot of people were afraid of him because of the fact that he had blackmail on the Marquis. They were like, well, we don't want to harm him, because if the Marquis comes down on us, the whole guild is basically going to be disbanded in one night. You know, it's not going to be around the next day if we do this. Reskin, however, doesn't give a shit and walks in and ends the man's life in a matter of moments after he draws his blade, and looks towards the second member of the Serpent Guild and is, well, you seem competent. You seem like a very good sneak, and so we all understand. Sneak is, in our own modern day terms, a thief, somebody who is very proficient at sneaking around and being quiet. He looks at the sneak and is like, "Well, you could be useful to me. You seem to have a touch of the magic in you." And the new appointed guild member, master of the Serpent Guild, looks at him and is like, "Yeah, that's something that not a lot of people know about me. I actually do have the ability to manipulate wards and get myself into certain locations I shouldn't be in, period." And so that comes in handy later on in the story, not exactly in the first book, but later on in the story that will come into a better picture of why he wants that kind of skill in his arsenal of tools. And through this interaction with the Diamond Claw Guild, we learn, or I'm sorry, not Diamond Claw, the Serpent Guild, we learn that Rezkin truly is someone who can be cold and unfeeling. With the Serpent Guild, we more learn that he can be ruthless and brutal in the way that he deals with them, where he makes them fight each other in the way that they do. And in the Serpent Guild, we get to see his cunning and actual mastery of behind-the-scenes knowledge. He gets to flex his own skills in the way that he deals with that situation. Let me see where I'm at here in my notes. Okay, I'm basically at the end. Fantastic. So, Rezkin is one of the few characters that I've had the pleasure to read and listen to that is still human. We see the exterior mask slip on multiple occasions, and even if he doesn't understand it, Rezkin doesn't truly comprehend his own brutality and ruthlessness in the way that he acts from his training, and we get to see that throughout the way that the book plays out, in the way that he is calm, collected, and understanding with his friends, but when it comes to his enemies, he's ruthless, brutal, and uncaring. Doesn't matter who you are, what kind of walk of life you lived. He will come in and he will do what business he needs to do, whether it requires your life to end or not, and then move on with his goals. Rezkin, let me see. Ever since Master Pater said that friends instead of king line in the beginning of the book, Rezkin's fate has been his own, truly. This is a person who doesn't know how to be a friend, or even truly kind to somebody. He simply does what is logical and calculated, a cunning yet compassionate man at his core. Rezkin doesn't see himself as cruel, but his methods can be seen as such. He takes no pleasure in needing to exercise his skills, but when he does, it's clear to see why people think of him as a demon or specter. Rezkin is truly remarkable as we see him, as we see more into him growing as a man, and he wants to be the man he wants to be, and not him being a tool or weapon in a noble or king's plans. This is an assassin who truly has no ties or master. He is his own. And with that, we get into the actual rules that Rezkin lives by. Rule 1, protect and honor your friends, which is supposed to be protect and honor your king.
So I got a question about that one.
Oh,
what
yeah.
point? Because I don't recall the for rules 1 and 2. When does he learn that it's supposed to be king and not friends?
He doesn't
And when-
learn. That's the whole point of this story, is he doesn't understand the actual extent of the rules. We learn as the reader through Master Pater's vision of him dying that he is meant to say king. He wants to say king, but he sees a flash of his old friends, and that's what makes him say friends instead of king. And same with Rule 2, is we see Master Pater just stammered at the time when he was speaking it. He didn't mean to say kill with conscience. He meant to say kill without conscience. It's just him stammering in the fact, or him reacting to the fact that he's dying, that we get these differences in the rules from what they're supposed to be.
That's why I guess I'm asking: are we inferring that these things were supposed to be said, or does it actually say that? Because I just don't remember it specifically.
It does actually.
But that's not to say that
that
it didn't happen.
Yeah.
What's that?
It does actually state that in the small time that we get with Master Pater before he dies. Granted, it's only like a page or two of him talking to Master Pater before he passes on.
I'm driving while I'm listening to this, so I could have been distracted and just missed that one little sentence of shit. So I'm like,
And it really is, at least with the kill with conscience one, that is just a one sentence throwaway kind of thing in this book, where it's mentioned once and then never mentioned again, because he interprets it as kill with conscience instead of kill without conscience. And then same with the first one, when Master Pater actually utters the word friends instead of king, Rezkin interprets that as I need to protect and honor my friends from now on, instead of I need to protect and honor my king from now on. And it's just a brief little, couple sentence disposition with Master Pater before he actually passes on from his wounds and everything like that.
Got it.
But I have the list of the few rules that we know about. There are at least 258 that we know about.
Because 258 is respect your listen to your master. Or?
Yeah, I think it's obey your masters. Obey your masters.
Obey your master.
Yeah. Which a lot of these are interspersed between them. Like, for example, I have Rule 3 and then Rule 5, and then I have Rule 6 and 8, and then I have 9 and 10, and then I have 14 and 17, that kind of thing. Yes. So a lot of them are jumped around and not really broken down on between them and what's between them in the rule list, but a lot of them we actually understand in a way of what they mean.
So does she actually, throughout, because you've listened to more than book, you've read more than book 1.
Yeah.
So does she cover more of the rules? Like, do we eventually get like a manifest of what every rule is?
Not all of them. That's the whole point of this book, is we don't get all of the rules. We're only given a few of them, and even then, most of them are given actually in the first book. Not a lot of them are given after that, because it's Rezkin truly becoming the Raven and truly becoming the Dark King's tidings that he becomes in these books. And you won't understand that until like book 2 or book 3, what the Dark King's tiding is. But it's mentioned briefly that the Dark King's tidings is an assassin by the king sent to his enemies. And that's what the Rezkin was supposed to be. And that eventually in one of the books, it's said that he truly introduces himself as the Dark King's tidings in this criminal network. Like, he truly imbibes the role that he's meant to be, even if he's not actually becoming the role that he's meant to be. And I like that a lot about the story.
All right, yeah. I'm just wondering. I was just curious about that one. All right, give us the rules. I'm ready.
So we got Rule 1, protect and honor your friends, which is supposed to be protect and honor your king. Rule 2, we've got kill with conscience, which is supposed to be kill without conscience, to help try and dehumanize himself between the kills, is what I perceive it as, at least. Rule 3 is reveal nothing, and that's part of his own assassin training, where he doesn't need to reveal anything to anyone for any reason at any time whatsoever. Rule 5, we jump from 4. We don't understand what Rule 4 is. We never understand what it is. Rule 5, we get master your fears, or your fear, period. Go ahead. You don't have to raise your hand.
Question. Isn't there, I don't want to cut you off all the time, because it's rude and it annoys me, so I don't like to be cut off. I could have swore that he's got his rules, which are these rules, but there are other sets of rules too, right? Like diplomatic rules.
In a way, yes.
I could have swore he said something, but like the master said something like, "Oh, well, that's for in the diplomatic rule number whatever. This is how you act."
It's not necessarily rules; it's more suggestions. It's more guidelines is what you're expecting. So, like, for example, with him dealing with Frisha in the way that he does, he sees her as a truly noble woman, like somebody who's from noble birth. Even if she's not, he acts in that way because it's what he needs in that situation to be diplomatic towards her. And that's the way that he reacts to those guidelines that they give him for those different scenarios, where they're like,
Right.
well, in this scenario, it's more realistic to be a brown noser and actually, kiss ass in this situation. In a lot of other situations, it's just the regular rules are what you go by, and you just apply them wherever you feel like in your situation.
Almost like a flow chart of sorts.
Exactly. Almost like a flow chart.
Right.
With Rule 5, we had Master Your Fear. Rule 6 is do not get injured. And that's a very important lesson to Rezkin that he learns at a very young age, where he is climbing a wall in an attempt to be stealthy and not leave a trace, is what his master wants him to. And Rezkin eventually falls. And when he falls, it's not described exactly what kind of injury he gets, other than the fact that he breaks his leg. I'm assuming that it's a femur break on his lower part of his leg, where it's between his knee and his ankle, in the way of how normal fall victims would have injuries in that way. That being said, we're not told exactly which bone is broken and which place it's broken, but Master Pater is the actual healer that walks up to him after... What is it? Master J.R. Dune. Master J.R. Dune is the one that's actually making him climb the wall. And Master J.R. Dune sees Rezkin fall and is visibly angry at the fact that he fell in any way, shape, or form, and the fact that he injured himself. With Rezkin injuring himself, we get a... brief look at the rule for, what is it? It's do not leave evidence, but I don't remember which rule specifically it is.
One of them was don't make a sound. Like he couldn't. He wasn't. You get injured. You don't. Well, you broke rule. You broke that rule of getting injured, and then you broke the rule of making a noise.
Yeah. There's one for making a noise, and there's one for making any kind of evidence or leaving any kind of evidence as well. I'm trying to find the exact rules and what they are. Rule 104: meet uncertainty with silence and listen, is probably one of the he broke as well in that situation. There's
You do a document search.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out exactly which ones that he broke and the actual rules so that I don't get it wrong here. But I do not have... Rule 12, do not make a sound. And Rule 10, do not leave evidence. Those are the specific rules that he's breaking in that instance. And when he actually falls from the tower in this instance and actually injures himself, he vomits from the pain, as most humans would at this time of day, because, we don't have an actual modern medicine at the time and that kind of deal. In the way of, we have, what are they called? The Greeks had them. They're practicing doctors. I can't remember the name of them right now. Not doctors who are fully certified, but ones that are learning.
Paramedic?
Kind of, but there's a specific word for the one I'm looking for. It's that kind of era, though, where people would either heal you or kill you in that scenario, because that's all they could do. They could either ease your suffering or make it so that you suffer less. I can't remember the name of it right now. It's bothering me. Anyway, Rezkin, being the quote-unquote master of healing that he is, we get to see his skills on display later on in the story, where he sustains an injury and is able to patch himself up and really kind of keep going in the moment, but later on has to actually care for himself in that way of, mending the injury and taking time to rest in that kind of way. Granted, Rezkin doesn't rest very much in the story at all, because he is just that kind of dude. But it's that kind of vein where he tries to rest and take it easy for a day or two. I can't remember if that's in book 1 or book 2, but it might be in book 2 that he gets injured and has to do that.
It has to rest?
Yeah.
Or go to the healer?
No, like actually rest. He can heal himself. So that's the point of Rezkin's training, is that he's a master of medicine. Even if he's not actually, quote-unquote, a doctor and went to school, he understands how to fix himself. He can fix himself, and he doesn't need to go to a physician or... that's the name of it. The word I was looking for was physician. He doesn't need to go to a physician or a doctor or anything like that. He can fix himself.
But he does go to the doctor. He does go to one time.
Yeah. Eventually, he does go to somebody for a brief moment to figure out what is going on with him, because he just doesn't understand it, and that's part of where his training lacked, in the way of they just never truly broke down how humans are supposed to be reacting to situations and that kind of thing.
No, when he at the end of book 1, when he's crossing the river.
Yep.
He broke something.
Yep.
And he had to go and talk to that dude, and it turns out that the guy that he was supposed to go to was dead.
Yep.
And it's his
son
apprentice
or
that
whatever.
actually,
Yep.
yeah, that actually does the
mending and everything.
Performs the mending.
Yep, exactly. And that's part of how we learn about him, is he doesn't know how to react to this situation. He's kind of like, well, can you fix me or can you not fix me?
Right, yeah.
And
Are you certified, buddy, or are you not? Let's get this
exactly.
I got things to do.
Yeah.
I got places to go.
Yeah, he's like, I got people to blackmail. Come on now. But with that being said, we had Rule 6 of Don't Be Injured. We have Rule 8 of Know Your Surroundings. Rule 9, Never underestimate your opponents. I apologize. Rule 10, Leave no evidence. Rule 12, Don't make a sound. Rule 14, Don't revel in success. Rule 17, Never complain. Rule 19, Plan with logic and without vengeance or favor. Rule 24, we get Always be on guard. Rule 37, Separate from one's emotions. 41, Heed your instincts. 42, Reconsider actions that end in failure. Let me see what rule this is. I gotta break this out a little bit more. Yeah, Rule 43, Fight off fatigue, which we actually get to see in the first book of him actively battling his fatigue on the way to... what is it? The first city that we talked about already that I've forgotten the name of. Justine. Yes, yeah. Justine. When he's heading to Justine, we get to see that kind of briefly in the way that he is still riding his battle charger, but he's weary. It's really later on when he's dealing with the Serpent Guild, which is the second Thieves Guild that he deals with, that we get to see him really battling the fatigue. He's up, 20 hours in the day or whatever it is, dealing with all these issues and dealing with Thieves Guild at night after booking the boat with Frisha and Tam and making sure they have their appearances up and viewing him the way that he wants them to. We get to really see him fight off the fatigue in that way. 47, we have the necessary skills for the task. Rule 57 is remain in the dark when possible. Rule 84 is do not let your attention linger. 87 is never assume victory. 96 is always be prepared. Rule 102 is do not kill without cause. Rule 104 is meet uncertainty with silence and listen. 117, do not get captured. 123, do not seek praise or acknowledgement. Rule 147 is mentioned, but it's never given the actual context of what the rule is. It's just mentioned that there is a Rule 147, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think is that in the sense when it was like somebody was like, I think Tam was like, well, what rules were broken? And he's like, well, 14, 21, 147, and 58, of course. And he's like,
Tam's like, what the fuck kind of rules are you talking about, dude? What are you even on?
Right.
But yeah, it's mentioned, but never actually detailed on what it is. And some of these rules are mentioned in book 1, some of them are mentioned in book 2, 4, 5, whatever book it is. But all this is just the list of all of the rules that we've gotten so far from Kel Kade. Rule 49 is map your body, which is akin to do not let yourself be injured. It's constantly making sure that you understand where your body is, understanding what kind of textures are along your body, when it means that you've been cut, whether it's a minor cut or a deep wound, that kind of thing. 156 is do not die. Pretty self-explanatory, that one. 164 is do not depend on others. 165 is trust no one. 176 is finish your tasks. 188, do not engage in combat unless you must. Rule 233, you are the weapon. That is one that we get pretty frequently in Free the Darkness. He mentions that to himself more than mentioning it to other people that he's the weapon. It's more of he's mentioning in his head that I am the weapon. I am the one that is the tool here, not my actual tools. 237, bear no identifying marks. He does that pretty frequently in the way of he crops his hair differently or doesn't have any tattoos, that kind of thing. 239, protect yourself before others to the exclusion of Rule 1. And we all know now that Rule 1 isn't what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be protect and honor your king, not protect and honor your friends. So with us knowing that Rule 1 is wrong, he will eventually take that to the extreme of actually protecting his friends. 245, we have retreat when you cannot win. Rule 257 is be one and alone. That one isn't specified in this book. Later on it is in the other books. 258 is obey your masters. That's one of the few later on rules that we get that are actually implied in this book. A lot of the other later on rules aren't implied in this book, minus 147, which we never actually get the context to choose. We don't know what rule that actually is. But we get to really understand the character of Rezkin and who he represents through the rules and through the breakdown of his actual character and understanding that he is logical and calculating, but also cunning and compassionate. He can be ruthless to his enemies, but also caring to his allies. So, thoughts?
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
I was
That's it.
actively listening to what you're saying.
Yeah.
No, I mean that's a great summarization of what went down. I think that I mean you know about more about Rezkin than I do. I've only been privy to book 1, and so I can only speak to his character in book 1. And to me, the dude is a bit of a sociopath.
Oh yeah.
Unintentionally, like it's not like he's a purposeful sociopath. He is because this is the way that he was raised and trained to be emotionless, to move with cause. The fact that he doesn't understand what the friendships are. And that, there are parts throughout the stories where he gets these tight feelings in his chest, and he has a misunderstanding of what they are. He doesn't understand what children are. He calls them small humans. When he does show those signs of compassion that you're talking about, it's not through a sense of compassion, it's through a sense of logic. Like, exactly. This is what they need, therefore I'm going to act this way. I'm going to smile because that disarms people. Things of that nature.
Exactly.
And it's almost like he's a robot to a large degree.
Oh yeah.
And there's a level of perfection to Rezkin that I had a hard time grasping. But but you rely on the fact that he was so well trained by all of these masters through the course. You got to remember the kid's only 19 years old.
Exactly.
You know,
And he completed
and
training 4 years earlier than expected.
right, and so he's got all the right moves, all the right words, the right logic, perception, perspective, except that human part.
Yep.
That the caring, the compassion, the
Understanding. Well, actually, he does understand most humans. I shouldn't say.
well, he understands from a logical perspective.
Yeah, not an emotional
And-
perspective.
Well, and he does, and even when he breaks down, when he comes to understanding the emotions, he breaks it down in a logical fashion. He must feel this way because of this kind of thing. But it's just a statement of fact. It's not like he feels this way because of that, and I understand that in my heart of hearts, right? He understands it in his brain of brains.
Exactly.
And what and as I continue the series, my hope is that he becomes less of a robot, less of a perfection. I'm actually curious to see if the guy ever cries.
Oh, he.
Uh,
I'm not sure if I can say that he cries. He truly becomes human, though, later on in the series. He truly
Yes.
understands what it means to be human later on.
And that's good, because I mean I think she does a great job of breaking the character down from a, normally you go from knowing nothing to learning all these skills to becoming perfection, and he kind of seems to be doing the opposite. He's already perfect to a large degree when it comes to all of the assassins and mind manipulation and
Yep.
nobility and stuff along those lines. Like he already knows how to do that stuff, but he doesn't know how to be human.
Exactly.
And if he can start to become human, then he becomes more, at least for me, he becomes more of a relatable character, and it would be an interesting progression or digression. I don't know what you would call it. I mean, progression to become.
It would be
was
more.
like Spock.
It's more of a progression rather than a digression of being this quote unquote perfect being and then becoming human. He really does kind of become this perfect weapon into becoming a human.
He I always like to break it down like I'm a 5-year-old or a 5th grader or whatever the statement is that and make it relatable to a sense to people that I would never understand, and to a large degree, like he is a mixture of he's of 3 people, and I don't know what the third person is, but he's a mixture of Spock, the Dread Pirate Roberts.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
I don't know who the third one is. The third, that because right now he's Spock and he's the Dread Pirate Robert. He's this master swordsman, weapons of all shapes and sizes. He's a potion master. He's a poison master. He's, he takes a dart when he's infiltrating one of the towards the end there, he takes a dart that has a poison. He's like, well, yeah, that would have been a problem had I not been immune to it.
Exactly.
Which totally reminded me of the Iocane from, the Princess Bride.
Yep.
I put the poison in both cups.
Exactly.
Kind of thing. And I'll be honest, at first it was a little hard to wrap my head around him until you start to understand the rules, and that his adherence to the rules and his belief and commitment to the rules.
Yep.
And that's why I was asking if we get to learn about all of them, because it's like, I mean, it's very much like, Sun Tzu and the Art of War. Half of those rules are, you could probably go back and I have a copy of it somewhere around here. We could probably pull up those rules and find half of them in the Art of War. Know your enemy, retreat. Retreat when victory is not evident. When the enemy is making a mistake, don't stop them.
Yeah.
Kind of philosophy, or whether you want to call it the Prince from Machiavelli. It's a little mixture of all of those guys, all kind of thrown into this 19-year-old specimen,
Yep.
right? And this will take me to my little I thought it was humorous because it kind of made me put myself in check a little bit when I was listening to the book. And so, like, no offense to anybody and anything, this was a learning on my behalf, and I have to, opening up my eyes to things. I didn't realize that Kel Kade was a woman when I was listening to the book, okay? And so, at least initially. Because, a gross majority of the fantasy authors and lit RP authors, are men. And so, like, for whatever reason, I just assumed that. I didn't assume it like Kel Kade is a guy. In my head, it was a guy writing it. And so she gets to describing this guy, Rezkin, in some very explicit detail, like some almost in sensual ways. And to a large degree, he's a beautiful human being. He's sculpted like a god. He's got these crystal blue eyes, long flowing hair, and she does it at such occasion that to me it was a little bit cringy. I was like, all right, when guys write their shit, it's a power fantasy, and they're either like they're writing their ideal version of themselves. And of course, these are all assumptions I'm making on my part, and I'm sorry for my assumptions if I'm offending anybody. Is my intention. They're either writing their ideal version of themselves, or their ideal version of what
they want.
Right? And I'm like, so I was listening to this like, man, this guy really, this is what this guy really wants to be. He wants to be this perfect specimen. And then eventually I look it up, like halfway through the book, I look it up and I'm like, oh, it's a woman that's writing this. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe she's writing her ideal man, or maybe she's writing her ideal hero who is a man. And this is where it kind of made me kind of reset my thinking is just because there's been so many books written by men who write women characters just fucking wrong.
Yep.
Right? Like, and you're just like, have you ever spoken to a woman like before you wrote this character? Because like, I don't know, I've maybe met one woman in my life that has acted the way that you're describing, and I don't interact with her anymore. Yep. It's like, they're not like this. And so she had done a great job of writing from a guy's perspective. That I thought it was a guy. That's why I thought it was a guy writing about a guy fantasizing over a guy. Yep. And I just felt like I was like, man, okay, you're really diving into these descriptions of it, because like it's also not my style, is what it comes down to. Really, because when I write my characters, I have a guy that's particularly strikingly handsome, very debonair, says all the right words, is strong. But I say it from other people's perspectives to continue it, versus explicitly like just talking about his abs or his chiseled beard or his gleaming head or his chocolate skin and or anything like that. And try not to be too trope about the way that I'm describing these people. But the one thing that I appreciated about her perspective in writing is Rezkin's thought process when he's trying to discern human stuff. So when like his interaction with Frisha, and she says, oh, well, this is my friend Rezkin, and he's like, friend, like you were describing, right? Like, she must know we're friends. Yep. And therefore, this is her way of telling me that he's friends. And so he would have these conversations in his mind about like the logical breakdown of why these things happen. And that's kind of how I would break things down, depending on what the scenario is. It's obviously, it doesn't have to do with friends, but it would be like, why is that person looking at me strange? Do I smell? Did I look at them strangely, or are they having a bad day, or maybe I remind them of somebody, or whatever the case might be, right? And then like, what was the scene? The scene where he's taking a bath in the river.
Oh, it's when Frisha. It's when they have Frisha and the other girl in the party, and they're arguing over who's gonna get Rezkin, kind of deal.
Right. and he comes over and he's naked.
Yep.
And then it's misconstrued by the
officer
Johnson
in
or
the army. And Tam.
yeah, what's that guy?
Oh, I can't.
Yeah, and Tam, they're both like, put some clothes on. How inappropriate. And Rezkin is like, I'll fucking kill you, bro.
Yeah, he's like, I came over here because I heard women screaming, not because I wanted to intrude on their own thing here.
Yeah, exactly. His initial reaction was
Jimson,
like, you know what, I'm gonna go get your full story before you start accusing people of stuff, right?
Yep.
His name
Lieutenant
is
Jimson.
Jimson, there you go.
Yep.
And then when he goes through the process of being like, why, at first he's like, Jimson got it wrong. He shouldn't be saying these things. Mm-hmm. He's out of line. But then he kind of keeps going with it. And he's like, well, why is it still bothering me? Yep. What is this feeling in my chest? Mm-hmm. I don't understand. And he kind of comes to the conclusion that he cares how Jimson views him.
Yep.
And this is a new sensation to him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really clever. The humor that she and this is the only humor in this story, as far as I could tell, is his misunderstanding of normal human interactions, which is fucking funny. I mean, and she does a great job of like inserting that humor throughout the course of the book. And I'm hoping that it continues.
It does relatively. Sometimes the humor changes. Well, as you learn through some of the book, some of the humor is actually Tam and Frisha, playing fun with him in the way that friends do. Some of that changes later on in the way of it's less of his interactions being that kind of funny, awkward, and more of him truly understanding that he's being awkward in these situations and trying to be better. And then him and Tam or him and Frisha having an inside joke that they laugh about kind of deal. Right. And so I appreciate her sense of humor and how she writes that in. It's clever. I haven't come across that in the bunches of books that I've read. It was like a refreshing kind of take on that, especially in the beginning when you don't understand the humor, and he rolls up into Justine and there's these little humans running around. And I'm like, is it a bunch of midgets? Yep. Are these dwarves that he's come across? Because we're Fantasyland, and I don't know, but it's like, oh no, it's children. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this is hilarious. They don't, and he's like kind of ridiculing them in his mind about like, well, that dress is unrealistic if you want to follow rules, whatever, because you can't protect yourself and your mobility is limited. Yep. And things like that. And I'm like, that's right. He doesn't know. He doesn't know like how people function just on a day-to-day aspect. And I think she does a great job of capturing that. So I just like to first and foremost apologize for thinking that Kel Kade, if you're listening, I thought you were a guy. I'm sorry. You've got a very cool name. Well, that's the whole point of how she writes her books. She writes her books under the name of Kel Kade so that she can appear to be this cool, ominous man that's writing his books. When in reality, it's a sweet woman who just wants to write books because she has this idea in her head that she wants to come alive. And to that
and she does a great job. She does a great job of bringing it to life too, no doubt.
Yeah. She nails it with the details. Really, is where it is for me. Is really in the actual scene building she does for each of the actual quote unquote scenes that are in the book. But going on the note of how you were describing how she actually describes Rezkin, you have to remember most of the time it's from Frisha or the other woman's point of view. They're describing Rezkin in their own mind. It's not him describing himself this way or another man describing himself this way. It's usually a woman who's like, oh, his chiseled chin and his beard is perfectly manicured, his abs are, oh, they're so good. And then you have other men who are like, man, this man is so intimidating. And the way he presents himself is so mysterious. I just want to know who this man is. Not in a way of sexual attraction, except for the Diamond Claws guild leader. He specifically is actually gay in this book, and we get to learn that very briefly in his interaction with Rezkin, where he's attracted to Rezkin's mysteriousness and his lethality. But we get more of the descriptions of Rezkin and how he appears to people in the book from the women's point of view in this book, in the way that we get the descriptions. And I like that a lot, actually, from a just discerning point of view, because I've listened to my own fair share of books, or read my own fair share of books, where we don't really get the women's perspective of how they see things or how they perceive the people around them as well. And I like that, how she constantly swaps between Rezkin's point of view of men and women versus Frisch's point of view of men and women.
And that was actually something else I was going to bring up, was with the perspective changes. Not on that specific topic, but like, you know, this is a story told from, it jumps around.
Yep.
You know, it's narrative. It comes from Rezkin's perspective. It comes from the other character's perspective, and she does a really great job of flowing between those two. It's not confusing.
Yep.
You know, you have a pretty good idea whose mind you're in when the minds switch, and when it's being narrated. Some of my hang up is that, and this is a personal thing, is that, like, because it's Nick Podell, you know, his voices are the same from The Land.
Yep.
If you've listened to The Land, and you know, and I'm listening to these people, and I'm like, oh, that's dude from The Land, that's the girl from The Land, that's the kind of the thing. And it took me a second to be like, dude, we're not listening to that story, we're listening to something totally different. And it is, I mean, it's not their book, they couldn't be, they're widely different stories.
But it is just the narration of Nick Podell being so similar.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
The books. Yeah, I get it. I'm a fan of Nick Podell personally. I listen to him with Sherilyn Kenyon books, so I love him in the way he narrates his book. Anytime he brings up like a similar character voice, I'm like, oh, that's this person from this book, and I really like that he's getting that character out again and giving them more life.
Oh yeah, no, I would love to sit if dude did a reading, like an in-person reading. I could just sit there like a little sofa chair, like a little kid. I'd just eat my ice cream and just be like, yeah, tell me a story, brother. Like, whatever.
Just
go ahead.
Recliner that I'm in right now, and just be like, yep, tell me. I'm ready. I'm ready to listen for 12 hours.
Let's go. I'm here to listen, man.
Yeah.
What was some of the other things that I was gonna?
Oh, I've got plenty of notes we can talk about.
I wish it would have ended with a little bit more. It ended in a more of a to be continued.
Yep.
Versus like a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's just how she decided to do that, and like, so that's so be it.
She wrote it in a way so that she can include the preview of the next book in the Audible version of it, and so that you could actually get a taste of what's coming next, kind of deal, rather than being in the way of, oh, this ends here right now with this. This is it. That's all you get.
I mean, I'm curious to see what happens in the next segment where he goes. I guess he's going to go to the tournament. I'm a little surprised that he would actually fight in the tournament. That seems like it's beneath him to a large degree. I understand why he's going, but it's more to get answers than to participate.
Yep.
But I'll be curious to see if he actually does participate in it. I would think that he wouldn't, because you don't want to. Because he should be. I would think you're smart enough that you don't showcase your skills unless necessary.
Both of those apply to what's going to happen. So he does participate in the actual tournament, but it's more of in the way of he's trying to reveal some of his skills in the way of what will ever win him the match. It's not about him actually showing off and taking pride in what he's doing and that kind of thing, like all the other fighters are. It's more of him actually just being like, okay, I can use this skill in this situation to conquer this opponent and then move on with what's going on here.
So we'll dive into the other notes after. I'll say one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was talking with my wife about this, and again, this is a me thing. This isn't a criticism of the book in any shape or form. I like broken characters. I like people who have flaws, that have been beaten down by life.
Yep. But
still have the will to persevere or push on. And the thing that bothers me about the story is that Rezkin's perfect in everything that he does and everything that he says. every move that he makes, every calculated, everything that he calculates, from being with the noble families to the thief guilds to his fighting abilities. And so my wife said, and so I was talking about, like, I'm like, well, my hope is that he becomes more human, so that because of the things that we discussed, like that feeling in his chest that he got, that he wanted somebody to like him or think favorably of him.
Yep.
I'm like, I hope that continues, because then this would kind of all wrap in together nicely. He'd be going from perfect to a perfectly imperfect human of sorts. And she said something that kind of clicked in my head, was that, like, he has so much potential to be broken.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Like, yeah, he's so perfect that the only place he's got to go is broken.
Yep.
And those are the ones that I prefer, and except this is happening kind of in an opposite way.
Yep.
Which, if what she has written so far is kind of like the what you have to look forward to, then it'll be done well.
Exactly.
Like, really well.
Yep. And she really does make this book kind of her own in the second book. Legends of On is what it's called. I think, actually, no, the second one is Reign of Madness. So in Reign of Madness, we really get to see Rezkin thrive as a character. Not so much in the first book. In the first book, we really get his introduction to who he is, what kind of deal he has with the world, all that kind of thing. What I like about the character that we get to see in this book is the dichotomy of him being quote-unquote perfect, and then him actually not being perfect. Him not understanding the human dichotomy of who he is. Like, he understands the assassin side of it, the skill side, and the whole medical side, all that stuff. He understands everything logically on what he's supposed to do. It's the fact that he doesn't understand who he is as a person that we get to see throughout this story in all of these books. And we get to see him grow into the human that he quote unquote is supposed to be. It's really the human he wants to be that we get to see him grow into in these other stories. Later on down the road, we get to see his relationship with Frisha blossom into something different and all that. I don't want to get too much into it and spoil too much for the people, but we get to see.
Yeah, man, that shit was funny when he was like, "I'm a girlfriend." When they talked about what the girlfriend, like the girl who's a friend, and he's like, well, then what are you, Tam? Are you my boyfriend?
Yeah,
I'm your best friend.
Yep.
And he's like, oh, there must be a hierarchy. Like that shit, that
exactly.
That shit had me laughing.
It's that whole, he doesn't understand how it is. There must be a hierarchy. There must be like a count, marquis, and lord kind of thing situation going on.
You're the top girl who's a friend.
Yep.
Versus the second girl who's a friend. I think I'm just like, yeah, that's how it is, brother. Yep. That's how it goes.
Yep, and we get to see that. We get to see him grow in that way throughout the story, as well as him actually portray the raven that he is in his other half of his life. We also get to see the overlap eventually in the story for the series of what happens when, you know, the actual worlds collide kind of deal, like with what we get with Spider-Man and Mary Jane, where like she eventually understands who he is, and that kind of dichotomy between the two of them, of the normal life and the superhero aspects of life. What I love most about this story, though, in the way that Kel Kade actually portrays it, is that we have this perfect assassin. There's this person who is meant to be a weapon, a tool for a king or a lord in this country, who really does get to be his own person afterwards. Like, it's not just he had all this training and then he broke out on his own and went and did this thing and rebellion against the order that raised him. No, it's just this dude was raised in this way. He was told on someone's deathbed that he was meant to protect and honor his friends instead of protect and honor his king, and he took that literally, and that's now his story, is he's trying to protect and honor his friends and keep them safe and kill with conscience, which he doesn't understand because he was taught to kill without conscience throughout his entire life. So we get to see that dichotomy of him truly understanding what it means to be human and deal with these emotions, and and people and affection and that kind of thing, and sorrow and remorse. Because even if it's not mentioned a whole lot in this book, we get to really see him deal with that pain in his chest when he thinks about Farson and what happened at the fort. You know, he's upset about what happened, even if he doesn't understand truly that he is. He's heartbroken over the fact that he had to kill the people who were closest to him, and he doesn't understand that he's heartbroken about that subject ever, really, in the story, in the first book. We get to see him all the way to the end, where he's still trying to understand what that emotion is in his chest, where his heart is hurting, and he doesn't get what it means. I like that about the character that we get in this book. It's not your typical, like, for example, like Harbin Cooper's Reborn Assassin. We get to really see the assassin in that book be a ruthless, kind of uncaring person and a effectively perfect human being in the way that the role he's playing. Well, in this book, we get to see the human side of the person behind the mask. Even though he's going out and performing acts at night that his friends don't know about, he still becomes a human during the day and tries to portray himself in that human aspect, which I like a lot. Now, going on.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
It's okay.
No, go ahead.
I mean, I was just gonna say, like, I mean, I haven't, you know, in my writing specifically, like, I haven't had my main character kill like another human yet.
Yep.
Because I mean, I think I need to do a little bit of research on my own about people's reactions to that, because I'd like it to be realistic, I guess, you know, and I've avoided it to a large degree just because I don't know what it would be like the next day after you've taken a life, even justifiably taken a life. I'm not, you know, it's the enemy or the children, kind of like, I killed him. You should still have some kind of like emotional distress over taking a life, at least in the beginning.
Yep.
You know, maybe not after the fifth life.
No,
or
yeah,
something.
that's
You become numb to it or some degree, but so like I'm curious to see how she writes that, because he is. I mean, at the moment, he, you know, I take a life because I'm supposed to.
Yep.
I was told to, because they were a danger to me or my friends, and that's it. Like, that's the end of the story. And it's like, that's not really. That is, for some people, it's that way, but like for a normaler people, like, there's going to be some, like, I don't know, visceral emotional reaction to like questioning your own humanity to a degree, I guess.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
We get to slightly see that with Tam and Frisha when they first see Reskin take a life on
that's
the
right.
road.
Yeah.
We barely get to see that in this book of how they react to that situation, because you have to remember Reskin is raised in the way of, he's been executing people since he was like 7. You know, like, he's been executing people all throughout his life. He's been trained to not feel anything when he ends a life. But we get to see Frisha and Tam's true reactions to Reskin taking a life specifically in the
Tam
bandits
too.
on the
Tam
road.
takes his first life.
Yep, exactly. We get to see that reaction.
And she does describe that. I forgot about that. She does describe, he was like, he was throwing up, he threw up, and
Yep.
he was bummed for a day or two.
Yeah, he was shaking and couldn't control himself really for the first day afterwards of it, but he slowly became accustomed to the fact that he actually did end someone's life. But we get to see that briefly with Tam. We get to see that a little bit more later on with Tam and Jemison later on down the line. We get to understand truly who they are, and we get to see Reskin's true disassociation between himself and the kills eventually in the story. It's not exactly portrayed in the first book. It's slightly portrayed in the way that he ends a life where he is cold calculating and understanding in the fact of, this person needs to die to progress my own goals in this lifetime.
Right.
But we get to see more of that later on in the series, in this one. I like the series a lot because of how human Kel Kade actually gets to portray Reskin, because he's supposed to be this unfeeling, uncaring monster, and in reality he's a human who has emotions and doesn't understand how to deal with them. So I like how she actually builds up Reskin over time throughout the books later on in the series. That being said, get back on topic with this one. We get to see Reskin do a multitude of different things throughout this book. You see him take out the strikers in the beginning of the book, as I've already mentioned. As he's moving throughout Justine, we get to see him truly realize his alter ego of the Raven that other people start calling him. Mind you, Rezkin never calls himself the Raven until other people actually call him the Raven. Once other people label him in this way, he starts using that as his moniker just because it's easier to keep the reputation people have been saying about him. We get to truly see this dichotomy between Rezkin and the Raven in his takeover of the Diamond Claw guilds, the Diamond Claw guild, the first guild he takes over in the books, in the way of he just kind of walks in the front door after following 3 pickpockets to the base and slaughters the man behind the door immediately. Like, no hesitation, he kicks in the door, kills the guy, and is like, all right, take me to your leader now. Once we get there,
Right.
I'll kill him, and we'll move on from there. And he goes in and fights the man in a one-on-one duel and ends his life so fast that everybody else is shocked at how fast he ended his life. We get to see a little bit more of the dichotomy of him versus the Raven, where Rezkin wouldn't have ended his life so swiftly, while we see his alter ego of the Raven wanting to end his life swiftly so that he doesn't have any issues of it and that it doesn't cause problems down the line. While Rezkin would have probably interrogated him for more information first and then executed him afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
We get to see a little bit more of Rezkin taking matters into his own hands in this kingdom through the Diamond Claw and Serpent Guild eventually. Not so much the Diamond Claw Guild until after he takes over the Serpent's Guild. And once he takes over the Serpent's Guild, we get to see him kind of play more of an active role in politics in the way that he reacts to the Marquis and how the Marquis would react to him ending the life of his cousin, is what we find out that he is. With Rezkin ending the life of the Marquis' cousin, he sends the body to the Marquis with a ring of lilies with one red in the center. To everybody else, this is just an arrangement of flowers. To the Marquis himself, this is a truly terrifying realization that the Marquis has, that the Raven, as he knows him, knows his secret, that he had violated another noble's daughter and ended her life and hid it and made it a conspiracy, quote unquote, against him, if you would like to use that word. We get to learn that Rezkin knows exactly where the body is buried and exactly what to do in this situation. He goes to the Marquis' son and makes him a proposal in the fact of that the Marquis' son is a better man than his father and that he would be a better ruler over the city than his father, and that he is going to end the Marquis' life and instate his son as the new Marquis in this way. We get to see how truly good of a man the Marquis' son is when he reacts to the news of Lily's death, the girl that the Marquis assaulted, in the way of he was like, that could have been my wife. Like, I can't believe my father did that. I can never side with this man over what was done to this woman. Like, you have my full backing at this point. I will go along with your plan based on the atrocities that my father has committed already. I do not want him to do this again. So we get that dichotomy of him still being human in the way of he approaches the Marquis' son and tells him, like, look, you will be a better ruler in this place. You will actually care about the people under you. You won't assault other people's daughters. You will try to protect the innocent under your rule. But I can't have your father stay. And we get the dichotomy of him actually caring about the people and the fact that he's going to end a life of the Marquis' father, and that he approaches the Marquis' son and is like, look, I want you to be a better man than your father was. And we get that kind of dichotomy still of him being the cold, ruthless assassin and the emotionally unstable and underdeveloped human that he is.
Yeah, she does a great job of showing the two sides, the contrast between. Um, that was one of the other things that I was just kind of like that they didn't really touch on it with the teachings from the masters was the diplomatic side. Like, it turns out that Rezkin was taught about all of the houses and the nobles and their relations and their dealings and their dark dealings.
Well, the dark dealings was the thing that wasn't talked about on purpose because, if any of them spoke about the fact that Rezkin now knows the dark dealings of each of these houses, they would have been executed if any word got out of that, It's one of those things where we get to see him flex his own skills at intelligence gathering because he was able to not only gather that intelligence from the strikers when they told him, he was able to retain that knowledge and keep it until it was actually useful to him.
Right.
With that being said, with the Addercroft family being put to death pretty much in the new person instated, Tam and Frisha really have no idea about what's going on with Rescue. Like, they are just like, oh, at this point in time, while he's doing all of this and becoming the Raven and putting on the show for the criminal underworld, they're kind of like, oh, this dude is just this caring, compassionate human being who doesn't understand what he's talking about and is truly inept at human emotions. And so they're like, oh, we need to coddle this guy. He's just a sweet little boy who's innocent and couldn't hurt a fly. And in reality, Rezkin's already ended probably 100 lives at this point in time in the story. Like, probably close to 100 lives at this point.
Right. It's not until they're. It's not until they're.
It's not until the final part of the book where they truly understand what Rezkin is. It's not until they truly witness him end the lives of, I think it's the thieves on the riverboat?
It was the bandits,
yes,
right?
The bandits on the riverboat, yep. Yeah, it's not until we get to see him end the lives of the bandits on the riverboat that they truly understand that Rezkin is a lethal human being. Tam gets a little bit of it, and Frisha gets a little bit of it at the beginning when they meet him, but over the time that they meet him and truly get to know Rezkin, they're like, oh, he's just a harmless guy who doesn't understand what he's feeling. And then we get to the fact that they're on the riverboat, they're going down the river, and then they get stopped, and the bandits pop out, and Rezkin ruthlessly ends the lives of like 8 of them, while the captain takes down 2. And they're like, oh, this is a very dangerous man. we should probably be careful.
we may have miscategorized this guy.
Yeah. So with that, we get to learn of how these bandits are truly actually moving in the Empire and how they're actually under like a noble's household. In that Rezkin doesn't understand why the nobles are doing this in the way that they are. So he kind of takes over with the criminal underworld and is like, yeah, I don't kind of want these houses funding these bandits and things like that, and thieves guilds and all that, and using them as their own spies. I'm going to use them as my own spies. And so with that, after he, before he gets on the riverboat to move down to just what's the other city?
They're going to not
Kaibane. Yes, yeah. They are going to Kaibane because they're in Justine. So as they're moving down the river to Kaibane, everybody else is kind of like, oh, Rezkin is still kind of this somewhat, inept man at human interaction, and he's still somewhat harmless, except for the captain, lieutenant. Lieutenant, on the other hand, has seen Rezkin in his lives in a ruthless and efficient manner, and is kind of like, maybe I shouldn't mess with this guy. I'd like to train with him, but maybe I should get on his bad side.
Yeah, him and Jimson had a battle before. So what happens? They have a battle because Jimson grabs the 2 ladies off of the horse, and when Rezkin
gets all upset about Frisha. Yep.
And then the other lady gets attacked, right? She gets kind of ragdolled.
Yeah.
And that's when that's when Frisha sees it, right? Like Rezkin takes on this brute of a man. He disarms him and gets him on his knees, and then he just basically executes him.
Yep, and that's before they
like all with
that's before
all
they
within
get
like
to this state.
right between the or wherever.
All right.
So going off of what you were saying about that whole scene where they are on the road, and I can't remember her name right now. Let me look it up real quick so I can get her name correctly.
Roxy?
I think it's something like that. Shayla.
We haven't even talked about the blades yet.
I know. I was gonna say that for last because they're so cool.
Benny Rudden, where the fuck is she at?
Raylan, that's her name.
Raylan.
Yep, her name is Raylan. So when Raylan is in this scene with this brute of a man who is basically just tossing her around, tossing her against trees, breaking bones, that kind of thing, Rez can kind of just waltz up and I don't really know how to put this other than just absolutely decimates this man in front of Frisha and Raylan, like to the point that this guy had no chance. Like dodged every single attack, parried the ones he couldn't, and then slashed him while he was counterattacking with another brutal attack. Like
yeah, he handled the dude with like without breaking a sweat.
Yeah, absolutely bodies this man in like 5 seconds flat, kind of deal. Raylan and Frisha both are kind of taken aback. Raylan is more enamored and more attracted to this dangerous man that just saved her life, while Frisha truly gets to see how lethal Rezkin can be when he wants to be. And Frisha understands now just the kind of depth of brutality that lurks in this man.
Right.
I like that a lot, as it's the only instance in this book that Frisha really gets to see what kind of man Rezkin is. End of the day, yes, he's kind, yes, he's caring, yes, he's compassionate, but he is actually a ruthless killer at the end of the day who has been trained to end lives permanently throughout his life.
Efficiently and with little cause.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about these blades.
Yeah, let's get into these blades. All right, so the blades that Rezkin is quote-unquote gifted at the beginning of the book. We'll say gifted, is that's kind of the better term for this. They are called Shaylin blades. They are a specific kind of blade that were made by a special master by the name of Shaylin back in the day, about, I think they say about 100 years ago, or at least something like that. Like at least tens of decades ago. We're talking multiple decades. These blades are beautiful craftsmanship, to the point that most average people would never see something kind of like it in their lifetime. Like, it would be a once in a lifetime, oh my god, that blade is amazing, and then never see something like it again in their lifetime. They would see just pitted, rust covered blades, or that kind of deal of, not well maintained
Or like
swords.
What are those blades that are not meant for fighting? They're just more for
the ceremonial ones. Yep.
Thank you. Ceremonial.
Yeah. Most people would see like ceremonial blades more than these. These Shaylins, however, are battle-tested, war-hardened swords that are meant to cleave bone from bone and flesh from flesh. They have a beautiful swirling pattern throughout the blade that is a gray of the metal and then a bluish gray of whatever Shaylin actually added to these blades. And that swirl goes along from hilt to blade tip, and that gives it its distinctive look that most people will see it and know what it is that blue hue throughout the blade.
This is the first time that I've wanted to see, because there's AI, you can see AI renderings of things, and they come up with some pretty dope. There's some pretty dope weapons if you look around, and like this is one of those things because I looked, I can't find it, like a rendition of a picture of these blades. I don't know if you have one or if you know a place where it's a good place to look, but like this is one of those weapons that I would love to see an artist's version of what these things look like.
Other than the cover of the books for this series, I do not think you will find anybody else who puts them on any kind of artwork. But they are on almost every single cover of the book, even if they're hidden by like the text or the art of the actual book. Every single book has Rezkin, except for the new one, of course, the book 7. Each and every single one of them has Rezkin holding the Shaylin blades, or at least a Shaylin blade. Other than that, though, I don't think you will find many representations of this blade, just because it's so unique. A lot of other artists will, draw from other renditions of blades and things like that throughout history or something like that. This one is very unique in the way it's described, in the way it's a swirling silver blue pattern throughout the blade. Honestly, it's almost as if the maker melted down. Oh God, what's the name of that gem? Emerald? No, emeralds are green. Which one is it? Sapphire. It's almost as if the maker melted down sapphire and silver and then mixed it into the metal of the blade. Is how it's described.
Okay.
All right, so with coming to the end of the book, we have Rezkin meeting Frisha's uncle, the general of the army for the kingdom they are in. And with this, we get a very big interaction of Rezkin and the general truly knowing the depth of Rezkin's skills and understanding that Rezkin is an assassin that is meant to only kill people throughout his lifetime. And that he and Frisha having this romantic fling that they are having that Rezkin doesn't understand is not what the general wants for his niece. The general truly gets what Rezkin is in the way that he is a ruthless, brutal killer meant to carry out these missions with a cold, calculating, and unfeeling manner. We get to see the Frisha really clash with Rezkin here slightly with the way that they use the wordplay in their conversations. What's up?
Right. She's she's all pissed off because he's not fighting for her to stay with her, that kind of feeling. Is that what you're talking about?
It's less the Rezkin and Frisha side where she's like all quote unquote upset at how he's dealing with the situation. It's more of the general truly understands what Rezkin is. Frisha doesn't. And Frisha just wants him because he's a caring and compassionate man that he's opened up to her with, and the general sees him as this cold, unfeeling assassin who could never love his niece.
So there's two people in the book.
Mm-hmm.
The general, and I think it was a lady that was the other one. I'm drawing a blank right now. Said that they halfway recognize Rezkin.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
he looks like somebody. Could it be the ghost of this guy or something like that? I'm assuming that there was other versions of Rezkins in previous centuries or decades. Like he's not the first of his kind.
It's not the role they're recognizing; it's the person they're recognizing.
Right? Yeah, the features. He looks like somebody that looks familiar to them.
Yes.
Is that addressed later?
Yes, it is brought up later, and it's slightly mentioned at who Rezkin truly is.
Okay. I mean, you don't have to do any spoilers for me. I'm just as you're saying stuff right now, I'm recalling.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how much of this I want to give away to try and get people interested, including you with this. So it's mentioned briefly in the book that people are recognizing him on his looks and all that in the way that you brought up. It's not exactly built upon until later on, but the general kind of gives a little bit away. He's kind of like he reminds me of a specific someone, but it could never be that person. Can't be that person. It's that person. It is that person. It's who he thinks it is. It's the general has him pegged at the very beginning of who Reskin is and how he was brought up. The general truly does know, even if he doesn't understand what he knows.
Gotcha.